What follows is a guide for shifting your mindset to experiencing a world where real magic is not only possible, but it's your birthright. With this shift, miracle making will become something you not only believe in, but that you manifest in your everyday life. Number 1, reserve your judgment and your disbelief. I encourage you to cultivate a new, self-declared openness to anything and everything being a possibility for you. Having an open mind and suspending your disbelief allows you to experience new vistas, while your closed mind keeps you trapped in your old ways of thinking and seeing. Real magic is only available to those who can imagine any and all possibilities, while letting the how it will happen take care of itself. 2, create a real magic zone in your mind. Make this a very private part of your life. Reserve a small piece of your consciousness exclusively for this. I've been able to manifest what constitutes miracles for myself by having this very private zone all to myself. Retreat there often to ask for the loving guidance, and the guidance will be there. Number 3, affirm yourself as a no-limit person. When you develop this real magic zone in your mind and trust that you can go there at will, begin to affirm to yourself that there are literally no limits to the powers that you possess. A great rule of thumb is this: if you can conceive of it in your mind, then it can be brought into the physical world. To become your own miracle worker, you'll have to change the thoughts that create your world of limits and boundaries. Why not include the presence of real magic in your life as well? Number 4, develop a new mindset toward the concept of intuition. You really must become comfortable with the idea that strong inner pleadings and sudden hunches are truly inner voices offering you guidance. Think of your intuitive self as God talking privately to you, just as you talk privately to God and call it prayer. I'm absolutely certain that you have numerous stories of times that an inner voice prompted you to behave in what seemed to be an irrational way and turned out instead to be life-saving. It happens to everyone. Most of us get these intuitive signals on a regular basis. Your intuition, that fuzzy inner voice that you hear so often, is a part of your life. It's there. It's real. Pay attention to it. Number 5, discover the secret that sits in the center and knows. Become familiar and comfortable with the notion that nothingness has something to offer you on your path to real magic. Consider, it's the space between the notes that makes the music. A note without space is one long sound. No nothingness, no music. Consider this: a room is not a room without silent, empty space within, surrounded by the shape of material form. No nothingness, no room. And so it is with you. You too are material form surrounding the invisible, silent emptiness that is also you. Without that nothingness inside, there can be no you. It is out of that secret in the center that you will be able to create miracles for yourself. Number 6, learn to learn through knowing and trusting rather than doubting and fearing. Much of your learning has likely involved questioning your ability to gain a particular skill. You were taught to doubt in a culture that stressed, you can't, it's wrong, you don't have the right background or the right credentials or the training or the experience. Out of doubt came a fear of your greatness, a fear of disapproval, a fear of failure or intimacy, and even success. If you want to become acquainted with real magic, fear and doubt must be replaced with trust and a strong reliance on internal knowing. Keep in mind as you shift to this new consciousness that behind fear is powerlessness. That which you fear you are fighting, and fighting always weakens you. Behind trust is empowerment and love. It is your choice always, and the choice begins in that amorphous inner world of the mind. Number 7, affirm that your intention creates your reality. Memorize and continually remind yourself, my intention creates my reality. Intention is the energy of your soul coming into contact with your physical reality. What you see around you, who you associate with, how you function daily, and virtually everything about the physical you is a result of your intentions or how your thoughts became energized into action. Creating miracles in your life comes from your intention to do so. Not your wish, not your desire, not your goal, your intention. Then and only then, you'll begin to turn that same potential into your reality in the material world. Number 8, Experience surrender and satori. Surrendering is the equivalent of putting inspiration into your life. When you are inspired, you feel purposeful. When you trust in the invisible intelligence of the universe, you feel guided. It can happen in a moment, and it often occurs just that quickly. In Zen, they call this process satori, which translates roughly to instant awakening. This feeling of satori is a result of an inner decision to be at harmony with yourself and your physical world. It's really a decision to surrender. Number 9, learn to act as if the life you visualize is already here. Act as if that which you perceive in your mind is already here in the physical world. You create your thoughts create your intentions create your reality. Consequently, you must begin to ignore your own doubt about the importance of your inner world and start acting as if the images you desire are already your reality. If you want to be confident but don't normally act that way, today, just this once, act in the physical world the way that you believe a confident person would. This is how miracle-minded people really act in their lives. Try it. Number 10. Live according to your spiritual self first and your physical self second. In developing your mindset for real magic, you must begin the process of living primarily according to your spiritual self. Miracles will only occur if the choices you are making are in concert with your spiritual self. Your first responsibility is to your spiritual side. Consult your mind before acting, and therefore become authentic to yourself. It is nothing more than an internal shift. There is no need to rid yourself of physical habits nor pretend that your physical longings don't exist. Instead, what you do is you rearrange your priorities, making first contact with your soul, paying attention to it first, and allowing your behaviors in the physical world to flow from those new thoughts. Look within and listen, and your priorities will be clearly seen and heard by your physical self.
One of the nicest things about the universe is that it pays the highest interest rate of any bank on our planet. The universe gives 20 to 25% interest. If you send out $1,000 worth of love, you get back about $1,300 every time. You get your 1,000 back just to prove that what goes around comes around. And then you get a bonus. And the bonus is there just to remind you, this is the way to behave toward everyone.
When you give something out into the universe, you get it back. In the simplest form, if somebody's walking down the street with a scowl on their face and you say, "Good morning, how are you this morning? Here's a newspaper for you," or whatever it is, and you just say something pleasant and loving and nice, you will see something pleasant and nice come back to you most of the time. If you don't, then that's a test. That's not a, "See, I told you it's not right." That's just your test. Most of the time, it will come back to you. A smile, you'll see, and you will feel better. Now, in the simplest form, that's what it is. That even applies to financial things. I remember a few years ago, my secretary was just all concerned about her income taxes, and she owed $500 more on her taxes, and it was the 14th of April. And she didn't know what she was going to do, and she didn't want to have to take out a loan and all of this. And I said, "Look, you've done so many great things for me this year. Here's $500. I'll just pay those taxes. I don't have any problem with it. I'll pay it. It won't affect me one way or the other." It wasn't really any great big gesture or magnanimous thing for me to do. It was just what seemed to be the right thing to do. The next day in the mail comes a check for $570 from Greece for an article that I had written for Family Circle magazine like 5 years before. It had been held up in some transaction in Greece, and there it was. The $500 back plus $70 as a bonus. That principle applies all the time for me in my life, I have found. And I didn't know that 10 years ago. I didn't know that if you give it away, it's like it's that circuitous nature of how each cell works. Remember the electrons that are circling around? They all just keep coming back. Everything just keeps coming back. And it works. And we are, when you think of an endless universe, we're still just tiny little cells. The same principle is working. But getting people who have been conditioned to believe that it's the bottom line and it's profits, and if I don't see it, then I don't believe it. And so in this technological, externally oriented, fast-paced kind of hectic society that we have created, we tend to forget some basic human principles. I tell people over and over again, your opinions are trivial. The opinions that you have about all the things and all the most profound problems in the world are essentially trivial, and they make almost no difference what your opinion is. It's your commitment to it that really makes all the difference in the world. You take the most profound problem in the world and understand that you're trivializing it by having an opinion about it. And you take the tiniest, most insignificant problem in the world, and if you have a commitment to doing something about it, that's the most profound thing you can do. We just talked briefly about something else that I think is very important, and that is the importance of modeling, or being an example. The highest place you can get to is be the person who whatever it is that comes out of your mouth is what is. And that's the purest form of sanity there is. That's the highest place you can get to, where whatever you say is what you follow through on. And that precludes maybe exaggerating for making a point or something like that. When you let something come out of your mouth, or when you behave in a certain way, that it is consistent always with the beliefs that you have. You're going to exaggerate something that doesn't need to be exaggerated. And you stop yourself. This is the place I'm at now in my life, where I'm trying to do this more and more, working at this, where I might have just exaggerated by a number or something. 2 million books were sold last week instead of 150,000 or whatever it is. And stop yourself. Like the need to distort your reality. Where does that come from? Why do you need to do that? No one cares. It doesn't make any difference. So that when you're doing that, usually if you're lying in any way, you know when you're doing it that it's a distortion. And after a while, if you distort enough, it becomes a habit. And correcting that habit and really going to work on that, whether you call it integrity or whether you call it the ability to live by example, and being a model, like with your children, it's so important to live what it is that you say rather than to be something different for them or try to pretend that you're something different than you are. I don't just get up in front of an audience, or I don't just sit down and write about something that's nice for you, but I don't have to do that. I am it. And what I've written in Gifts from Icus and The Sky's the Limit, particularly in the Raising Children book, is what I am living each day of my life. Getting yourself to that point, that important integrity point, where what comes out of you is exactly what is in the world, and that if you're going to try to be persuasive or be a leader or make a difference in the world, then you do that by modeling, by providing an example up and down the line. And anytime you detract from that example, then you are not being authentic. And being authentic is a part of being enlightened, and it's very important to have that concept down cold. You can't be cheating on your income tax and punishing your children for being dishonest and be an authentic, enlightened person at the same time. You can't be blowing cigarettes in their face and telling them about the evils of addiction and be an enlightened, authentic person. And it's something I'd like to suggest to you when I talk about you can't give away what you don't have. That whatever it is that you are giving away, in the way of being offended or being an appreciator. And by the way, appreciation versus depreciation is the highest form of energy that you can have to your thoughts. In other words, every time you have a thought of depreciation, you have weakened yourself in some form. Any kind of a thought of depreciation. Whereas if you can shift a thought of depreciation into one of appreciation, even for that which you have been conditioned to believe deserves to be depreciated, if you can figure out a way to change and alter your thoughts, then you move into a higher energy. But more than moving into a stronger and a higher energy with appreciation, is that you move into a level of consciousness called synchronicity, in which you start to negotiate the presence of energy to serve as an attractor pattern. And that what I'm speaking about, solid energy as the lowest form of energy, and spiritual energy as the highest and the fastest form of energy, and that spiritual energy, the energy of love, the energy of cheerfulness, the energy of kindness, the energy of peace, when this energy is brought to the presence of the energy in which you have problems, lower energy, that these problems dissolve, they can't survive any more than darkness can survive in the face of light, then there is some kind of a gap that you have to negotiate between the world of problem energy and the world of higher energy. But what you have to look at here, when I say you can't give away what you don't have, is to ask yourself, if I can't give away what I don't have, it means that I am giving away what I do have. And because it's the only thing I can give away. I have to have it to give it away. So, and if energy is the vehicle upon which things are attracted and come into my life, then what is it that I am sending out there? Because it is in giving that we receive. What is it that I'm giving? What am I sending out there? What kind of energy do I send out there? And begin to look at that as the rationale and the explanation and the reasoning behind what is showing up in your life. That it really has nothing to do with what's going on outside of you in other people and in other events and in what other people are saying or doing or circumstances of your life. As much as we like to use that as an explanation and a rationale for it, that in fact, if you can change around your thinking to ask yourself, why do I keep attracting what it is that I'm attracting into my life, and what can I do to attract something different into my life? These things that we're calling attractor energies, that possibly, just possibly, I might be able to come to a place where I recognize that everything that's going on in my life, everything, I take responsibility for. And if I continue to attract the wrong people, or scarcity instead of abundance, or illness instead of health, or unhappiness rather than happiness, or fear rather than faith. And again, I always go back to that very famous prayer of St. Francis, where there is doubt, let me bring faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Where there is hatred, love. And if I can find a way to rid myself of those, just the thoughts, that I might possibly open myself up to a new idea, a mind that is open to everything, is one in which I say that I have been responsible for attracting all of these things into my life, and now I'm going to work at it for a given period of time of attracting something different into my life. I'm going to go with new attractor patterns of energy. I'm just going to go with it and see if I can make that shift begin to take place. And this thing that I have referred to as synchronicity is something that Jung said is something that is very real and is very powerful and is something that you can access. Which means that as you reach a faster energy yourself, you see, if everything is energy and nothing happens until something moves, and everything is moving, then you yourself are just a great big bundle of energy. You are just vibrating, and if you are a bundle of energy, if you buy this idea that your hand and your feet and your eyes and your entire body is really nothing more than a series of very, very tiny subatomic particles all moving together very fast with spaces between them, and you see that and you can get that, then you recognize that there's got to be a frequency at which you are vibrating. It's got to be vibrating at some frequency. And if you can also accept the idea that if I could move to a faster and a higher, more spiritual energy, that I will literally change the vibration at which I am vibrating, then it begins with the thoughts. It begins with how I am processing and thinking thoughts, that I can absolutely get to a place where I can start to radiate out different kinds of energy.